Just like when they walk on the field, they believe they're Superman. When you are coaching them, you have to believe you are Superman and also be humble enough to say, I don't know, and I need to go learn more too.
Tom Barbeau, Carolina Panthers, return to play coordinator, strength and conditioning assistant, entering his fourth season. I'm excited to give you a fire intro, but first, I want to ask, how are you doing today? And tell me something good that's going on in your life. And thanks for joining.
I'm doing really well today. We start training camp tomorrow, the rookies report. So I'll have to report back to you after tomorrow when my life is over. Everything's been going really well though. Just had a nice vacation with my wife. We were out in California. We went hiking. We went to Yosemite. So I got no complaints. Life's really good.
Heck yeah,
How
let's
are
go.
you doing today?
Oh, good, good. Always excited to talk really good stuff with really good people, and I guess that leads us into this fire intro of yours, and then we'll get into the podcast. But so entering year 4 in the NFL,
It's
specializing in
actually year five.
oh, the
Uh,
website was
it's
wrong. I knew it
the,
was
the
4 or
website was
5.
wrong.
It's like when does
Yeah,
it start? Entering year 5.
yeah, it doesn't matter. I did a podcast recently. The same thing happened. I was like, oh, we're a year off. We're okay. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make a difference.
Entering
It's
year
every year.
5.
Every year's year one.
So, as the return to play coordinator, specializing obviously in that, but also doing assistant S&C stuff, and that's kind of where all of this stuff is kind of rooted in your background as a S&C coach and understanding what performance is, and then consequently you can do return to performance or return to play. But having spent time at Baylor football before that, and then what was it, 97 teams at that D3 that you were the head of, something like that.
It was me and 16 of them. So
Uh,
you figure out what didn't work really, really, really fast.
Yeah, I bet. And just a crazy background and upbringing kind of with ski racing and all the Burdenko stuff, which I'm excited to kind of learn more about. But you have a very flattering profile picture, by the way. It always caught my eye every now and again when I see it on my social media. And just you holding the football and everything. And just decided to reach out. We talked for I don't even know how long. What was it? Maybe 90 minutes. And I'm sure we could have kept going. And
Right.
super cool dude, good story. And I figured it'd be a great story to share on this podcast. So, if there's any big stops along the way that I missed, but if not, we will get into it.
No, that was perfect. Spot on.
All right. So, first, kind of fork in the road moment of your coaching career. So, basically, looking back, what was kind of that first thing that if you had taken a left instead of a right, kind of all this would be pretty different?
So I played college basketball, and I loved basketball. Like from I in fifth grade, I was supposed to go to a workout, and I was playing soccer, and the coach was like, "You can't leave soccer practice early to go work out and play basketball." And I was like, "All right, well, my soccer career just ended in fifth grade. Like,
Oh,
I just want to play
geez.
basketball." And so I would go and work out. Like, I'm from a really, really small town in New Hampshire. I'm from a ski resort town. You mentioned it. Um, my
Both your
dad, my both
parents
my parents
owned,
ran.
yeah.
Yeah. They ran a ski racing school. Um, my dad is still coaches the 14-year-olds, and he's a strength and conditioning coach and does rehab there. And my mom taught French, ran the part of the school side of it, ran part of the dorm side of it. She's a swim coach, so now she's a college swim coach. But so I loved playing basketball, and I got to college and I played for a couple of years, and I really wasn't enjoying the experience, and I made the decision to stop playing and start coaching. And I thought that I wanted to be a basketball coach always because I love strategy. I love X's and O's, whether it's sport X's and O's, sport analytics, or strength and conditioning X's and O's, and analytics now, right? So I I thought I wanted to be a basketball coach, and I had such an unenjoyable experience playing college basketball
Where
that
at? Where was this?
I was at McGill University in Montreal, which it was an unbelievable college experience. It just I really realized that I like development, and I think a huge benefit of being a strength and conditioning coach is you help everybody on the team. You aren't dictating playing time, so you get to go in and give every single kid your best. You don't have to make a decision if they get to play or not. And that was something that really drew me towards strength and conditioning. And I had the background because my dad does rehab, does strength and conditioning. Um, So it was one or two. So what I ended up doing is I stopped playing and I went and I started coaching at a French private school on the South Shore of Montreal. So it was hilarious because I told you my mom's a French teacher. Well, I was a jerk as a kid, and she would speak to me in French, and I would reply in English. And at the time, it didn't matter in rural New Hampshire. But then go forward 7 years, and your point guard doesn't speak any English, and all of a sudden you're trying to figure out how to
No
communicate it.
way.
So that was a good moment. I was like, "God, I probably should have listened to my mom. She might have been smarter than I gave her credit for at the time. She definitely was, right? Moms know everything. You just don't
Dude,
realize
they
before.
do. They do. It's
That's
crazy.
but so that would definitely be my like fork in the road. I could have tried to keep playing, or I could have tried to go become a basketball coach. And instead, I coached a little basketball and did the strength and conditioning at this private school, and realized I like the training side of it way better. I love that, so that's what I
Mm.
definitely decided to stick with.
So two things. If you could give a brief overview of the Burdenko kind of method and all that stuff. Not to get into that, but just kind of what that is, as that's kind of a tent post in some of your stuff, if I remember our first combo correctly. And then second, do you remember kind of growing up around coaches? Did you kind of gravitate towards that? Or is it like, oh, my parents did it all day, I'm around it all day, like I don't want to be coached by them? If that like, did it kind of turn you
Mm,
off to the coaching growing up, or did you kind of lean into it, if you can remember?
uh, I think I leaned into it more. I remember I would always do workouts and stuff in the backyard with my dad. Um, my mom would teach me swimming lessons, and I would go to swim team because like we'd go up and visit our family in Canada, and I'd go to swim team. And I would not say I was the toughest kid, so I didn't enjoy being uncomfortable, which is funny now because all my friends give me a hard time. Everybody I work with, that I hate the manual labor side of the job. So clearly that carried over. Um, but I do think I leaned into it. I always enjoyed teaching, coaching, learning. Um, that answers that part of it. As
Yeah,
far as
perfect.
the Burdenko method, so the Burdenko method is invented by a gentleman named Igor Burdenko. He just had his birthday last week.
Wow, happy birthday.
He's doctor. Yeah, I think he's like he's almost 90. He's very close to 90. He
Jeez.
lives in Boston, and he was pretty high up in the Soviet Sport Federation. He wrote a bunch of the books for the Soviet physical education system, and then he defected to the U.S. and started off as a massage therapist. He was a doctor in Soviet Russia. He worked as a massage therapist and then started working essentially in rehab. Like he's made multiple paraplegics walk, and it's
Wow.
unbelievable stuff. He worked with Kevin McHale when he was injured. He worked with Nancy Kerrigan after she got clubbed in the leg. All sorts of unbelievable. He
Oh
has
my gosh.
Have you ever seen Miracle when the U.S. team beat the Russians? He has a picture on his wall signed by Tretiak, the Russian goalie. So the other
Wow,
side
that
of
guy
it,
was
but
insane.
exactly, it's very cool. Um, so I call him Uncle Igor because when my mom was pregnant with me, my dad first started learning from him, and they would go. He was giving clinics in this tiny little ski resort town that I grew up in, and my mom was taking notes, writing on her stomach, which was me.
And then
And
just it through
e-
osmosis.
exactly. Since then, so even like his method is far more movement based than weight room based, and it's land and water. So one, it's
Okay.
about balance, coordination, endurance, flexibility, speed, and strength, and you systematically hit them in training. So like day one will be balance coordination, day two will be balance endurance, day three can be balance flexibility, whatever it is. And in doing so, it automatically becomes undulating periodization. Now, it's not exactly the same as we think about it because
Mhm.
you're getting this huge variety of movements, but it from the time I was little, I was taught this is how we load, and this is how things improve. Um, Similarly, and then also within this method, anything you do forwards, you do backwards. Anything you do slowly, you do at a moderate speed, and you do as fast as you can. And balance, the most important quality, is not just standing on one foot or standing on a Bosu ball. It is front to back balance. It
Mhm.
is control of the pelvis. It is um, It is posture and stability, all of those things. So it is the whole word balance. It is not just the standing there. And that's one of those things I feel really, really fortunate about, because now you go take a PRI course or a DNS course, or you read your Dan Mendeguch's research, and all of this stuff is talking about getting the pelvis in a neutral position or stacked under the ribs or out of anterior tilt. And from the time I was born, I was told, like, balance is the most important thing. And it's, you're only as good as the people that teach you and your mentors. And I'm very lucky that the number one quality that I learned as a kid is actually so important in rehab, in performance, in health. So I always tell the story. I was probably 8 years old, going Christmas shopping with my dad, and we're at the mall, and he's like, "Hey, look at this guy's foot. You see how his foot's out? You see what it's doing to his back? You see how the leg moves up the chain?" I was like, "Oh yeah, here we go." And so I'm very lucky, because now it's like I never really was going to do anything else. This is the only thing I think about and do, and it's great.
So, a coach destined to be, for sure. You've been working on your coach's eye for a very, very long time.
Forever, yeah. That's My dad is still like that, right? We'll be walking or driving, and he'll be like, "Oh, this person's their gate's all messed up." I try to do the opposite. I'm driving and someone's walking by the car. I'm put the
Don't look,
blinders
don't
on.
look.
Go look. It's gonna stress me out. I don't want to worry about that right
Not my
now. Stare
monkeys,
at the
not my
yellow line.
circus, you know?
Yes, exactly,
Um,
exactly.
I didn't know that part. I knew that that was, like, a big part of your dad's training and whatnot and your mom's training, but Uncle Igor sounds like,
Oh yeah,
it's like, who's Derek Evely, um, Antonelli Bondarchuk lived in his basement for, like,
yes.
yeah. So it sounds like it was
So
kinda
then,
like that.
well, so yeah, Uncle Igor had a house that was about 3 minutes from the house that I grew up in, that my parents still live in, just the other side of this tiny little river in the White Mountain National Forest. And we would go up there whenever they were up visiting from Boston, or we would go stay with them in Boston. There's old your VHS family videos, and I'm a baby, and he's having me kick one leg, the other leg, both legs, like making sure that I was growing and developing properly.
And you didn't make it to the NBA? What the heck?
I did not. But both my parents are 5'8" and I'm like 6'3", so it worked.
Oh,
Something worked out.
there you go.
Something worked better.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll take it. I'll
It could have
take
been
it
that
for
or the
sure.
green juice they were making me drink as a kid, one of the two, but it worked.
Something worked.
Something
That's
worked.
great. Very cool. So next, kind of moving on, what is the craziest, coolest story that you have, and whether that's from the D3
Mhm.
school or just the grind of college or just working with the best athletes in the world? Basically, like if someone's like, "Oh, you do like return and play?" Like what's that like? Like what would you pull out of your back pocket like in a bar?
So I'm going to answer this in twofold. One, the craziest thing that happened, and again, there's a lot of luck involved, is we're about to start our 5th year with the Carolina Panthers, and it's our third full-time head football coach.
Mm.
Like, the last year, we get kept on, and it's such a relief. Week 10 comes, and your new head coach gets fired, and we're all in the elevator together going up again. There's the 5 or 6 of us that had done this. There's, yeah, probably 6 or 7 of us. We had done this the year before, and we're in the elevator. And I looked at our sports science director, who's one of my really good friends, Ryan Bellerose. I was like, "Man, guys, there's nobody I'd rather do this with again than the group we did it together with
That's
10 months
nice.
ago." But that is it has led to a stressful 24 or so months. Uh, so that's definitely the craziest thing, I think. As far as what is a return to play, like what are some good stories with that stuff? I think it's so you're so fortunate in the NFL, like the guys you get to work with on a daily basis. Um, just the random things you see throughout the course of the day. Like, we re-signed Cam Newton after our quarterback got hurt 2 years ago, and we're in our indoor, we're warming up for practice, and Cam has Rihanna playing, and he's dancing in front of the speakers. And I was like, this is Superman. Like, this guy is enormous. He's larger than life. and he loves Rihanna, and this is hilarious.
Yeah, the reason why I
Or
dab so much.
exactly, exactly. Um, and then when Christian McCaffrey is here, and I worked with Christian a ton, we became like close. I trained him for the last year, um, a lot, and that was such an enjoyable experience. We're in return to play at the end of our second year here, and he's coming off an ankle injury, and it's like anything you can throw at him coordination wise, this guy can do it. And it's just like you're literally making up exercises trying to make him harder just to challenge his coordination for that day, because it's not supposed to be a hard day, it's not supposed to be a high output day. So how are we gonna challenge the ankle and challenge some coordination? um, so there's an I talked about doing rehab with Nancy Kerrigan with Igor. So there's an exercise called Nancy's twist, where you're spinning on your ankles, and they invented it to drive rotation through the tibia when she had her leg clubbed. And so I'm like, well, here we go. We're pulling out Nancy's twist for CMAC, and there's stuff like that all the time. It's pretty cool, and it's amazing to watch these guys, the outputs, the movements on a regular basis. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
it's funny. Even in that example, it's like it's really not what it is, it's why you're doing it, like whether it's to challenge like Christian McCaffrey or to help someone try to get function of their leg back,
it's yeah, the same. I
applied in
think
for different reasons.
that's uh, you're spot on. I Something that I kind of rant about a lot is people want to learn exercises, they don't want to learn systems, but
Mhm.
it's the system that is important. It is the background and the bigger picture. It's the methods. It's not the exercises just fit. So the goal is to drive rotation through the lower leg. Well, why am I choosing to do that? Because someone had, to your point, someone had their leg, whatever it is. But if you go into a course, a weekend course, and you're like, oh, I'm here to learn the FRC exercises, like that's kind of a waste of your time. If you go in and you're like, I want to learn the system of functional range conditioning, you're like, oh, I'm applying load through the end range of motion. Well, now all of a sudden my front foot elevated split squat can be FRC.
Yeah.
That's the point. I
Mhm.
I think
Yeah, and then
makes you way better at your job.
you combine the art of coaching to, like, combine how you describe it with it being in a weight room with the athletes holding dumbbells, and then now they're way more into it, and it's just it all comes back to, like, knowing the why you're doing it?
Yes, exactly, exactly. It's
Anything noteworthy kinda from the craziness of Power 5 football or doing your own thing for a year with 16 teams?
uh my first ever taste in return to play was the hockey team at Plymouth State, the university that I had, is pretty good. It's high level Division 3 hockey, and one of the good players broke his hand, and the goal was to get him back. He was supposed to be cleared right for the playoffs, and I first year out of college, I don't know what the hell I'm doing,
Yeah.
and this guy Matt Volanino and I worked together for probably 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, and we were applying everything I knew in the weight room with everything I learned from my dad and from Dr. Burdenko. And we're doing all these different squats and catching balls and throwing balls and lateral, everything. And it's his first game back is either a playoff game or the game before the playoff game. And I remember how nervous I was watching him play, because now you're involved as the coach, right? Like you take ownership in this. And he scored a goal, and that was a moment that I will never forget, because this. I mean, that's probably the beginning of the addiction, right? You're like, you can help people. This is awesome. I feel like I'm a part of it again. Um, it's you're so happy to be able to help these other people. So that's definitely a crazy moment that I won't forget. Um, Power 5 football, I one, I had no urge to work in football. I told you I was a basketball player, and I was at Plymouth State, and I just wanted to go work. I wanted to work in Division 1 sports, and wanted to get my master's degree. And a gentleman from Plymouth State, Mike Gittleson, was the head strength coach for Michigan football for a long time. He's a high intensity training legend. He put me in touch with Jeremy Scott, who is now my boss with the Panthers. He was my boss at Baylor, and he's my boss here. And they had the opportunity to go down and intern. So I looked online. I was like, "Oh man, Baylor has a master's program. I'm going to apply." And I applied, and it was like, if you can teach, we need grad assistants to teach classes. Like, well, my undergrad was in phys ed. I can teach classes. So I taught racquetball. I taught weightlifting. I taught running. I don't run. I had never hit a racquetball until the day before I went and taught racquetball
Fake
class,
it
but
till
it's
you
cool.
make it.
Exactly. If you just got to stay one lesson plan ahead, watch a couple YouTube videos, you can learn anything you need on
Money,
YouTube.
money.
Um, and Baylor paid for my master's degree, so that was really lucky. And I showed up and I started interning, and it's Matt Rule's first year, and I've never worked in football. And pretty quickly I was like, all right, this is really cool because strength and conditioning really matters in football, and the players are bought in. Like, you're not pulling teeth, you're not trying to get them to lift. In a lot of cases, you're trying to get them to do less because they want to
Yeah.
come in and
Same with baseball.
squat. Yeah, exactly. You can't, like, that culture is phenomenal, but you're trying to pull them back. Um, so I get there and I'm enjoying it. It's a great experience, and it's the first game, and we run out on the field. And my mentor at Baylor was a guy named Jake Cox. He had been at Villanova, and Jake's like, "Man, welcome to big time college football." And there's a flyover. We're playing Liberty, and we lose. Like, Baylor loses to Liberty, and we stunk. We were 1-11.
Oh man.
We've lost to everybody except for Kansas. The next week we go out there, we're like, all right, we lost to Liberty, but we're gonna be fine. Like,
Yeah.
Baylor's been good. We have good players. We got UTSA beats our ass. Like,
Oh
Marcus
man.
Davenport had like 4 sacks. Well, Marcus Davenport is still playing in the NFL, so that he deserved it. But that was like, okay, this is, you don't just get to go win. And I knew nothing about college football, so I really. And then by the end, year 3, we lose to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. We won 11-1 in the regular season. We lost in the Big 12 championship.
The next
So
year.
seeing, no, 2 years later. Sorry.
Oh,
So yeah,
I was gonna say
but
quick
still,
turnaround.
the next year we went 7-6, went to a bowl game. The year after that, we go to the Sugar Bowl, lost in the Big 12 championship to Oklahoma, and so that was a really cool experience of just seeing. That's not an overnight. You're not an overnight sensation in that case, but it's a pretty quick turnaround, and it's cool to see what a culture does, and in college football, how you can win by being tougher than people and working harder than people. That's not something I ever thought about, and that's something that Coach Rule really preached. Um, and then you get to the NFL, and everybody's tough and everybody works hard. And you're like, all right, here we go. We got to figure out what's the next edge.
Mm-hmm.
How do we work smarter than people? How do we make better decisions? That's the
What do
next
you
challenge.
think
I don't
was
have an answer to
the
that one.
what do you think was the difference? You mentioned kind of pushing some of that more mental stuff. Was there any other kind of big noticeable differences? That's a pretty big swing going from like one win to one loss or two losses.
Yeah, the mental stuff was like really. I think that's a Coach Rule driven. Like, he really gets everybody in the building. The whole culture. It's amazing in college football what he's able to do. Um, Along with that, the football matters. Obviously, like, you can do anything you want, but if the football isn't good, nothing makes a difference, right? And his defensive coordinator at Temple and at Baylor and at Carolina for the first 2-3 years was a gentleman named Phil Snow, and Coach Snow just dialed it up on defense, and that was kind of always the backbone was we were going to be hard to score on, and but again, it's, you can do all the mental stuff, but you need Coach Snow out there teaching them the skills, and you need good coaches, like their linebacker coach at the time was Mike Saravo, who's with the Minnesota Vikings. He can coach. So you need those people out there that are really coaching the skills and teaching the kids how to play the sport too. And that was cool to see because, again, I never played football. I had never worked in football. Um, you just see some clips and you're like, oh, these guys are good athletes. They go out and do it. But it's not just like that. And now it's awesome because there's guys we coached who you would not have said are the best athletes. They are not the most physically blessed, and some of them are really, really good NFL football players.
Mhm.
And that's one of the coolest things is you go out on Sunday now, selfishly, for myself and the gentleman I worked for, Jeremy Scott and Andrew Altoff, we were all at Baylor together. And we play the Houston Texans last year, and Jalen Petrie comes up and gives you a big hug. Like, you can't beat this feeling because you know, took care of this kid when he was 19 years old, and you have so many stories going back. Or Terrell Bernard, the middle linebacker for the Bills, like Terrell broke his foot when he was a freshman, and we're working with him on the leg press on one leg, and now he's making sacks and dominating for the Bills. And it's like this, those are things you're so exciting to see these kids be so successful.
Yeah, I think return to play, which we kind of chatted about on the phone. It's just like it's a different kind of rewarding, I guess. And it's not the fact that like, or maybe it is just because the journey is like instead of going from like neutral to good, it's like negative or like coming back from an injury. But maybe, and I'd be interested to hear your 2 cents on like, obviously there's the emotional component, like whether it's myself as a coach and my identity totally isn't wrapped up in my job or work or anything. Um, but especially at the, Power
That's
5,
healthy, yeah,
yeah, football level. I mean, I was a D2 walk-on, which the best athletes go D2, obviously. But
of course.
being a big time like Power 5 football guy, or let alone like your literal job is to play in the NFL. And now it's a
Hmm.
job with NIL stuff. That's whatever. Um, so like what is it about return to play in your opinion that like makes it mean more? And maybe it's something obvious, but just to hear from your own perspective, like what makes return to play mean more than just regular coaching?
One, I think the athletes are in their most vulnerable state. I joked about Cam Newton being Superman, but every single one of these guys needs to walk out on the court, on the field, and believe they're Superman. If they don't, they're probably not ending up in this place, right? So you're getting them when there's a chink in their armor. Then you're getting them in a basically one-on-one setting, and you have to have so much trust between the athlete and the coach. Like they need to trust that I'm doing everything that I can to know how to solve the problem, and I need to trust that they are being honest with me. They are telling me when things hurt. They are giving good effort. They
Mhm.
are doing a good job recovering. Um, so that's probably, and then you're spending a lot of time together.
Mhm.
Like you can spend 10 weeks with a guy with a grade 3 hamstring. You can spend a year with a guy with an ACL, and so it's time, it's close proximity, it's the vulnerability. Like those are probably my. Sure, there's other reasons I'm not thinking of right now,
No, no, that
but
that was good.
it's.
Um,
I think it's so enjoyable because it's such a puzzle.
mm.
Like to me, that's the most fun part of it. Like everybody's similar. We're all humans, so you're solving similar problems, but everybody's their own puzzle.
Mhm.
And I like figuring out how to be right, and I like learning, and so then I want to be able to solve the problem. That's every single day. That's the goal. How can we solve this problem? How
Is
can we
there
get you back faster and
I
better?
is there any particular case, and you can keep it, anonymous, obviously, where, like, you were banging your head against the wall, you're like, "I can't figure this out," trying to f solve the puzzle, and then whether it was, like, a super simple big light bulb or just looking at it in a different way, where the solution kinda came to you, and it was this, like, big kind of epiphany, if there's a certain case that kinda sticks out in your mind.
Uh, I don't have a trying to solve the problem and then it coming, but I do have a case last year. We had a gentleman who had some hip issues, and he started the year. He didn't. He started the year basically on injured reserve. So, and he trains with us pretty much year round, and he's a freak. He's big, he's fast, he's strong, and he had just been training with us in the summer. And then for the first few weeks of the season, we're training, and he starts setting PRs on everything. He's setting running PRs. He's squatting. I mean, his squat might have gone up 30 pounds at point 0.5 or point 0.6 on the gym aware. Like every weight is going up. Like he's been training with us. So what's different? And I realized the only difference is I gave him an extra off day. Like
Wow.
all we did was less high intent. We gave two really high intensity stimuluses. We gave two moderate days that are pretty much low, and we gave three recovery days. All we did was do less, and everything got better. How can I keep doing more or less until things stop getting better? And then we brought in your Dan Mendegucha, who I mentioned before from Spain, who's one of the world leading hamstring researchers. And he's talking about how he does this 3-day rolling model where you run, you jump and lift, you recover. And I was like, well, I used to follow Derek Hansen's stuff. And okay, so how can I mix this? And we're still going to run our tens. We're still going to do this stuff. But instead of doing it 2 days in a row, I'm just going to do it one, and then I'm going to lift, and then I'm going to take a day off, and then I'm going to go back and do the next day of running. And but it's not, they're not going to run enough. And as the coach, that's really hard to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they
Mm-hmm.
go out there, they do their second Nordboard, and they're stronger than they were before. And then they go out the third time and they run, and they're supposed to be doing a dribble bleed in a run, and they hit 90%. Like, oh my God, it's been 9 days. How is this guy running this fast? Or these are random numbers and things I'm
Yeah.
throwing out here. But, and it was just, again, I was like, well, we just did less. All we did was in the 9 days, we did 1 or 2 days less. And now when it's time to be high, you got to get out, make sure you're getting the work in when they feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it's time to recover, it's time to recover. That's
Yeah,
been, those have been eye opening.
it's been super super interesting working with, the D1 baseball Power 5, like those guys, especially upperclassmen, having the conversations of like, I hope you know that you've out earned just getting more swings. Like
Mm-hmm.
100%. Underclassmen, freshmen, freaking
Mm.
grab a blanket and a pillow and like sleep in the cage, right? That's obviously an exaggeration, but it's like, I hope you would understand that, like, instead of an hour in the cage, go get a sweat in, go feel good 30 minutes, and then you have an extra 30 minutes to like hop in bed, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is also too overly simplistic, but it's like you leave the gym weaker, slower, and smaller than when you walked in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's
Mm-hmm.
the training process. You break it down and you build it back up.
Yes.
So whether it's just like a high-low model or just getting people to do like a low day in between, because some people just like to do something every day, but that's crazy that like the only variable that changed was rest and it was more, you know?
And it was so much better. We did it last. And to your point, like, yeah, you want to do something every day. Well, that something can be going in the pool.
Mhm.
I'm talking about with Igor, with Dr. Burdenko's stuff. Like, you go in the deep end, you're floating and you're exercising. Yes, it's full exercise. Yes, it feels like you're working, but it really is recovery at the same time. So that's an option. Also, something I really harp upon, our whole staff really harps upon people with, is like, the discipline is in the recovery.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people that can come in and grind. It takes discipline to go and spend the full 20 minutes in your red light doing your red light therapy. It takes discipline to go and get in the sauna for the full 20 minutes and do your
Mhm.
mobility, and whatever your choice of recovery is.
Mm.
That's the discipline is not doing more
Yeah, yeah, I forgot
when you're not
which
supposed to.
which person it was. Maybe Ryan Horn or maybe Cressy. This was back, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, no, 8 years ago. Back when like social media was first starting to pick up, and it's when people would put, I mean, I still put my tweets on Instagram, but it was a tweet. I remember it was like, "You wanna show me how disciplined you are? Like, get your 8 hours of sleep, no questions asked." And I was like, "Whoa,
Exactly.
no, I
Yes.
can't do that," you know?
That's it
Um,
though. The waking up at 5 in the morning to go do more isn't the discipline.
mhm,
Not especially if you went to bed at midnight. That's not it. Going to bed at
boom.
9, that's it.
That's hard. That is hard for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Very cool. So last kind of big question, and if we've already touched on it, then great. But what's the story that you're the most proud of? Kind of most full circle, and maybe one of those stories that it took you 1, 2, 5 years to kind of see, kind of everything come together, kind of full circle.
I think I don't know if it's proud or one of my best memories ever coaching will be 2 years ago, a year ago. My parents came down, and my dad was a consultant for us with the Panthers, and he brought our whole staff over to the pool and is teaching everybody on the staff. And we got some players that we help in the pool, and my mom is helping some of the players, and my dad is helping some of the players, and I have another group. And like that was such a cool moment of, we it's cool to see it work. And grew up learning all of this stuff, and it's like this is it's such a cool family moment of all of us together, like doing what we love as a family, and hopefully it's helping, and hopefully it's taking care of people, and hopefully it's having a positive impact. That's definitely a memory that I will always have, that I think was really awesome, full circle. Something taking time to come. I don't know about that. I'm 32. I don't know if that's happened yet.
That's all right.
That's
Uh,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know what that's.
Do you remember, like, during that pool moment, was it kind of in the middle? Did you have that moment where it's kinda like you pause for a sec, or was it kinda like after the fact when you were, reflecting back on it?
I think it was probably in the middle because I'm coaching somebody, and I just look up. I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like, there's defensive. My mom is helping a defensive lineman that's 330 pounds. I'm like, this is hilarious. Like, but and honestly, that's one thing I really like about working in the NFL is nobody cares who's helping you if they know they can help you.
Mm.
So I don't know how well I said that, but you know what
No,
I'm
that makes
saying,
sense.
where it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
where everybody's just trying to be better. It doesn't matter where it's coming from or who it's coming from. Like, we're all trying to go the same way. And I'm 32, and I get to train Andy Dalton, and Andy's older than I am, but and Andy's a way more successful athlete than I ever was. But Andy is an expert as a quarterback, and he believes that I am an expert. I believe that I am an expert as a strength and conditioning coach, and we have this great symbiotic relationship where we get along great, and he trains really hard, and he trusts that I am working really hard to put him in the best situation to train well. And I think that's really enjoyable, extremely enjoyable about the job and working in the NFL.
Mhm. I feel like, and I've never been at that level, but it's like there's ego for certain things, and then there's less ego on like that, you know? Like, "Oh, you're
This
helping me become better," you know?
in our area, in the weight room, in the training, we see so little of the negative ego because everybody just wants to be better. Everybody's trying to win.
Mhm.
So we're all just, yeah, happily working together, moving along. That's it's kind of something I always tell like young coaches, and because a question people ask a lot is like, do you get nervous when it's a big time player you're talking to? And what I was always told is, as a kid, because when my dad and Igor went down to San Antonio to work with Tim Duncan, when I believe he had torn his meniscus, pretty sure. And I love basketball, so it's like, oh my god, it's Tim Duncan. Are you nervous to go meet Tim Duncan? And my dad was like, no, I'm the best in the world at what I do. He's the best in the world at what he does. They're not. It's not the same thing, and it's going to work perfectly fine. And that's something I always remember. That is, you have to believe you. Just like when they walk on the field, they believe they're Superman. When you are coaching them, you have to believe you are Superman, and also be humble enough to say, I don't know, and I need to go learn more too.
Mhm. It's a weird combination of, like, the, uber successful or elite, whatever, like, business term, but, not only getting to the NFL, but also, like, there's not that many of you in the world either, where it's like a combination of, I've heard one guy say it's impulse control, so you can stay focused, and then also, like, thinking you're awesome and then thinking that you're not awesome, you know? It's like a weird
Yes,
combination of, like, all of those things, so it's like, you do have to know that, like, you're the best and that you know what you're doing, but at the same time, like, behind closed doors, you're like, "What," the imposter
that's
syndrome, I guess.
yeah. I think there's always a healthy level of imposter syndrome.
Mhm. It's
You
funny,
need it, or else you become complacent and you don't keep learning. And
so what's funny about that is I remember when I was an intern at TC Boost back in 2016, just young, dumb, like, I thought I knew everything, of course. My boss broke his knee 2 weeks into me being an intern, and I show up to work on a Friday, it's like the 2nd week, like 30 minutes before the first session of the adult class, and he's on the ground with his leg up in a chair, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And I, like, barely know this guy, right? And he's like, "Oh, I think I hurt my knee, could you, like, take the adults today?" And then he, like, hobbled out to his car, went to the hospital, shattered his, tibial plateau in, like, 9 places. Yeah.
ouch.
And then that summer, basically, I would lug around this physical therapy table and he would lay on it, you know? And then I would be, like, next to the athlete, like, demoing drills and, like, doing things like that, and then everything else that either he couldn't be there for or whatever, like, I was coaching. So I got my 200 hours in, like, was it 5 weeks maybe? My first Monday, that next Monday after the Friday was 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. It was the 6 a.m. adults, and then we had, like, high school football at 8. So that was great. But, I remember it was maybe, like, halfway through the summer, and I was talking with one of the other coaches, and it was like, "Oh, like, what do you wanna do in this field?" All these things, and I was like, "I wanna be the best strength and conditioning coach ever." Probably like we've all said, you know? It's like, "That's never gonna happen. As soon as you think that you're the best, you'll, like, stop," you know? And I was, like, so traumatized. I think I was, like, 19 at the time, maybe? Um, but there's some truth to that, though.
I completely agree. My question is, who's on this list, and how are you figuring out who you're dethroning? That's what I
Yeah,
wanna know.
exactly, exactly, and now, of course, like, I know there's so many, like, sub things, even within speed, right? There's, like, track speed, there's team athlete speed, there's return to play speed, right? Even there's so many there's the sports science of speed, you know, and, um so that was just me being naive and a month and a half into, you know, this, but, that's just a funny story. So, so very cool. I wanna say thank you for your
I wanna
time, and I'd really like to open up the floor, roll out the red carpet if there's anything you missed, if you wanna plug what you wanna plug, and where can the people get more of Coach Barbeau?
No, that was awesome. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Both all of our conversations have been fantastic. Uh, I am basically everything is at Barbeau Training, so it's my last name Training, and that's Twitter, Instagram. If you have more questions, you can email me. It's thomas.barbeau@panthers.nfl.com. And I love to talk training, so I'm happy to talk shop. Or I also have LinkedIn, so I check that less, and I have notifications turned off. But eventually I'll get back to
Eventually.
you.
He's not ghosting you, don't worry.
No, I promise. I'm not trying to. But no, it's always awesome. I love talking shop. So this is, I guess, it's the name of your podcast too. So that didn't mean it. I just plugged your podcast. There you go.
Hey, hey. Um, where can people get more about the Burdenko method besides growing up with him, basically?
um, there is a book on Amazon called The Burdenko Method. On Instagram, my dad posts a ton of stuff. Actually, it's Tom Barbeau Senior.
Mm,
So Tom Barbeau SR. He also has a YouTube page where he posts like full workouts. It's kind of awesome. Workouts in the pool, everything. I can make workouts for people that ask, and everything's posted there.
they just got a new
Uh,
subscriber.
there you go. Yeah, you'll go get buried in Burdenko method exercises. Igor used to do certifications. I don't know if he still does them, but I would definitely say start with the book. Um, there's a couple other people that do it. A good person is Taylor Cruz. He's Cruz Elite on social media.
Oh, I
Uh,
followed him for a long time.
so Taylor went to Plymouth State, took my dad's class. Uh, he
Wow.
lives he lives maybe 4 minutes up the road from my parents,
Crazy.
and he does way more neurology stuff now.
Yeah, I
He's
was gonna
Z Health,
say, yeah, vision
but
stuff,
but he
the
he worked for 2 years for Igor in Boston, at least 2 years,
wow,
maybe more. Um, so he's another one that he's active on social media, and down in there, there's the principles of the Burdenko method are mixed in with the neurology.
interesting.
Um, yes, it's,
Yeah, it's funny,
he's got
I
awesome stuff.
remember again, back when, like, Instagram was first kinda popping off, so in my saved Instagram videos at the bottom are, like, some of his stuff, and the one that always, like, I think of is the juggling the f not napkins, the not feathers.
Yes, the
What yeah.
colored. Yes, I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking about.
Juggling
Yes.
those, doing knee circles kind of in, like, a lateral lunge with, like,
Hmm.
a band around it, and I was like, I
Hmm.
th that makes sense, you know, like, you're distracted, but you have to your knees move, you know, and whatnot, so it's crazy how, it all comes together.
That's we'll still. I teach guys to juggle in RTP all the time. Um, you got a sprained ankle, stand on one foot, start juggling. Let's figure it out. And that's stuff from him too, though. That there's so many. They don't appreciate saying they're hacks, but they are, ways to trick the nervous system into giving you a better result. And I think that's fascinating. Um, it's a way I think in the future that I will try to learn more. I just need to get to that point.
And we will leave on that cliffhanger, and people can reach out if they want to learn more about that. So I want to say thank you very much again for your time. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to staying in touch, and hopefully we'll be talking again soon.
Fantastic. Appreciate you.